Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, excited to be here, excited to chat through things today. Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good 2025 so far. I've been able to kick off and do lives every single week this year. So that's been really good. I hope everybody's enjoying the consistency. Did not get to producing a long form video over the weekend. So normally we kind of dive in and start talking about that video a little bit and some of the best practices. And I'll definitely be back with a new video next week. And as always, I'll also try and throw some shorts in there as well, just to keep the engagement high. For all of us creators, we should do a lot of shorts. I just don't love the repurposing of content as shorts. So I've kind of stayed away from that. I want it to be kind of unique, clean, and clear. Um, yeah. So as you're coming into this session, please let me know where you're visiting from. Always good to get those warm and fuzzies that you can see and hear me okay. That's always nice as well. And we're going to talk in our downtime a little bit about return to office. And one of the primary things is we get so fixated in this return to office space of like why it's so bad, and it's not bad for everybody. For some people it is good, but it's just the idea and concept that one size fits all, that it just works for everybody and everybody performs better in the office. Nobody performs better at any one thing. So it's just an interesting topic for us to talk about. Um, it will continue to be a topic. It's been blowing up quite a bit lately. And then, like, hey, is the return to office really helping because the layoffs keep coming? And so that's something else we can talk a little bit about in this session, is like grouping and coupling like RTO, but is it really changing the layoff landscape and just the remote landscape in general? So definitely something we're going to want to chat through. So again, if you're just hopping onto this live session, let me know where you're visiting from. Just say hello. Uh, we always like to have a focus area in these live sessions. And the specific reason is if we get slow, we have a subject area, but really everything's on the table. So happy to answer any questions about any subject, and just all the highs and the warm and fuzzies. We always try and keep these live sessions going, and you'll see I can slow down quite a bit. We've managed to hit an hour every single session this year. So that's good. We'll see if that happens today. So before we dive into the questions as we're warming up, if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do these sessions, these live sessions, 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. New original long form content every Monday. And if I'm not going to produce, I will always put a note in the YouTube community page, the post, what they're calling it, the post page now. So I did that yesterday or on Sunday, just to inform the community I wouldn't be producing that long form video. Still trying to produce some shorts as I can. And then if you go to practiceinterviews.com, we have a ton of free resources. If you scroll down to the bottom, multiple downloads. We have over 100 blog posts. You can join our Slack community of almost, I think we're at like 4,400 members. It's stayed pretty static for a while. It's a little slower these days. I'm still doing one-on-one practice interviews, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. And then today, I just wanted to offer the coupon code. If you write and use the promo code NO RTO, you'll get 25% off of our course today. And that interview mastery course was updated in October to have AI modules. So that should really increase the effectiveness and time you spend in the course. Everything's about time, right? We don't want to spend hours and hours prepping for interviews. So just wanted to offer that. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Let's dive in. It looks like we have a small audience to start. So throw everything at me. Any questions, any comments, and then again, in our downtime, we'll talk a little bit about return to office and get your thoughts on it as well. Hey, Jeff, hope you're well. Haven't given Google much thought since not passing the interview loop last September, but I received a couple offers for potential referrals from past colleagues. Okay. Ordinarily, I wouldn't consider a referral after everything I went through with recruiting, but I was just also unfortunately laid off from my job at Meta as of yesterday after 8 months. Sorry to hear that. That's sucks. I'm still technically in Google's 12-month cooldown period until the end of September, so my questions are as follows. Can a referral make a difference to recruiting if I apply to a role, but I'm still technically in the cooldown period? Wouldn't they just throw the application out? Not necessarily. We'll come back to that. My last recruiter never responded when I asked if reconnection were possible at the end of the cooldown period. Writing to the candidate support email just got her copied, which I didn't want. Okay. Am I likely to continue being auto rejected after the cooldown period expires in September? I'm worried my last recruiter will see my applications and sabotage them. Should I even bother applying? Okay, so referrals can make a difference in the sense that they just get eyes on your background. Um, and when you're applying now, you have this time spent at Meta, so that's going to be valuable. That could uptick. And the cooldown period it's more of like a recommendation suggestion. It's not a hard fast rule. Historically, it's never been a hard fast rule. Like you have to wait 12 months. They turn on the clock, they lock your profile for 12 months. It's just they're going to try and find a role for you if the timing's right and there's a fit. So you don't have to wait till the end of September. That one recruiter is likely not going to see your applications, so you don't have to worry about them. And if they went out of their way to block you, ooh, like that would be, they'd get fired instantly if they got caught doing that. And actually, we weren't supposed to, when I was there, look at other people's profiles that like didn't make sense for us to look at because we could get audited. And if we got audited and they found we were looking at profiles we shouldn't look at or had nothing to do with like our business, you instantly lose your job. It's like a confidentiality thing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would just say, keep going. You've had a tough run at Google. And so again, sometimes we talk about these big tech companies, but when we don't have a good experience and we don't have a good experience multiple times, we need to question whether that organization is the right fit for us. Candidate experience across the board is going down because I think that, well, we know that these companies aren't prioritizing candidate experience, and everybody's felt it. If they did, it would feel very different. So because these companies aren't prioritizing it, we're feeling the negative experience. And I mean, again, I just think that we're not too far away from a recruiterless world. Like that's coming very, very soon. We could automate the entire recruiting process now without recruiters, and you as the candidates would have a better experience because the number one experience is responsiveness, and AI can make responsiveness instant in any aspect or phase of the process. And so I don't think we'll be dealing with recruiters for too much longer, but at present day, we have recruiters still. And so I just wouldn't worry about that person going after you. That would be not great. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here. Oh, late your time. Thanks so much for the tips. Helped me a lot on my interviews. Amazing. Thank you so much for the positive feedback. Positive feedback is great. And again, I know sometimes as content creators, it's just really important to note that we sometimes note the negative. And the negative can be just the way that people approach us, the expectations of us. And my following's large enough that I do have people coming in with quite a few expectations of me. But as content creators, we also get a ton of gratitude, and that's amazing. Like that's an awesome, awesome thing, and it definitely keeps us going. So thank you so much for checking in and saying hi. Hey, Daphne, good to have you here. Hey, Liz, good news. Okay, you have 2 upcoming interviews for 2 different companies, and I have 2 questions. Let's separate. Company A issued a CodeSignal invite in 2 weeks away. No recruiter, no note. Okay. This feels a bit strange. Would you reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn? I found a couple, not a huge company. All right, let's go back. Okay, so I'm going to skip over and I'm come back to these other questions. Company 2 question, just schedule a 30-minute interview for tomorrow with the recruiter. It's the top 1 to 3 videos of yours to get ready. By the way, both roles are very similar, so prep is reusable. If you go to the search function on my YouTube page, interview with a recruiter, that's on there. I mean, the biggest thing we're looking for in those recruiter conversations is what we're trying to uncover is, can we get any information from them, right? Like, so I want to know why the role's open. Like, did somebody leave the job? Or is this newly created? Newly created, it's like, okay, that's exciting. Like they're growing and building the team. Somebody left the job. That doesn't have to be a negative either. But we want to get a little bit of that context. The biggest thing I look for from the recruiter is like, why my profile? And if they have been interviewing for a while, like what's been lacking? And then if I can find anything out about the interviewers, what types of questions they ask, what are the questions they ask? I mean, we can literally ask everything of our recruiter. They may not answer a lot of our questions, but I want to get as much data and information as possible. One of the biggest things to remember with recruiters is just make sure you're on time and you're gracious and kind. It doesn't mean that they'll be that way, but you should be that way. A code, and I just want to go back to this one. I'm not familiar with CodeSignal. But they should personalize it a little bit. But again, this is going to be the future state of interviews. It's going to be automated. So we got to kind of get used to it. So maybe this is a good step for you, Liz, to get used to it. But I would hope that you could get a little more information. So you can reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, like I got this invite. Any additional context you want to share? You want to do any work or what's going on? Obviously, just be very, very gracious and kind in that communication. And good luck, and obviously keep us posted. Hey, Jeff, my recruiter said you're in team matching phase, and they're finding me a team. And if it gets shortlisted, they will keep posting. Okay, I don't understand that second part. If my interview feedback is positive, but not that much on the stronger side, then will anyone select me for team matching? How can I increase my chances? Should I ping engineering managers on LinkedIn? Okay, so you technically shouldn't get into the team match phase without pretty strong feedback, because that's not a good use of anybody's time. So first things first, you just need to understand your feedback has to be good. It's good. Otherwise, you wouldn't get into the team matching phase. So we can kind of push that one aside. That's the good news. Your feedback is good. Will anybody select you for team matching? The biggest unknown. I can't answer that question, and actually nobody can answer that question for you. It's an unknown. It's a very, very tricky part of the process, the team match phase. So I don't know. Just pinging random engineering managers on LinkedIn, not a recommendation that I would give. But if you get desperate, you can always try, right? I don't want to shut anybody down from being proactive. I'm a big fan of proactive, but it's just random hiring managers, eng managers. It doesn't make sense. If you are reaching out to any hiring manager on LinkedIn, it's just very, very important to remember that choose the ones who are active on LinkedIn, which again, eng managers at a company like a Google, are they going to be pretty active on LinkedIn? Probably not. It's just not a good use of their time. You'll get a random one here or there, but the vast majority just won't spend that much time there. So that's something else to note. And that's just broader feedback for the entire community. When reaching out on LinkedIn, if they don't use it, they're not going to respond, right? So they got to be pretty active on the platform. Now, one thing you can do to increase your chances is when working with your recruiter is not to overwhelm them, but just to maybe Every 2 to 4 weeks, send them one position, one at a time, not more than one. More than one's going to overwhelm them. One position with a specific link to that position, 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit for the role. In that email that you're emailing, you are going to include your preferred email and phone number. You will provide your upcoming availability for the next 2 to 3 weeks to have a conversation about that role, and you'll attach an updated resume if necessary for that job. Why take all those steps? Well, if you're working with recruiter Sue and she doesn't work on that role, but she sees recruiter Jane works on that role, she can literally forward that email and Jane will have all the information she needs. Now, Jane would always back it up and go into the applicant tracking system and look at that info. Path of least resistance. Let's actually talk about this. We're a little slow, so and obviously I'm going to get to all the questions, but it's really important that when communicating and communicating with our preferred audience, the audience that we're trying to attract and get their attention, we need to be brief and specific, because long emails, they don't work. You're asking that person to look at a lot of data, a lot of information. And then what I experience much more often is not enough information. Ask questions that are very broad, very vague, very open-ended, and I can't help. I'm literally useless because I don't really know what that person wants. And so when we think about any communication, brief and specific, brief and specific. So as you're looking through your emails that you're sending today, as you're looking to any outbound communication, have I been very specific with my ask and brief? It's an incredibly powerful communication tip, verbally and in written form. I have a marketing assistant phone screen for 30 minutes today. Tips. Marketing assistant. So marketing assistant, obviously, I don't know the role and company, but any marketing assistant is going to be, first of all, just thinking about times where you've probably worked on projects or initiatives where you've helped, enhanced, collaborated. Think really on the behavioral side, times where you've helped the marketing campaigns or marketing team improve upon things. Challenging situations in marketing, that could be conflicts or failures or tough decisions you had to make. That's another path. And then sometimes it can be about enhancing strategy and process. This is all very generic, but with a marketing assistant phone screen, you do want to lean into collaboration pretty heavily. If it's an assistant role, you are going to be supportive. So figuring out the needs of others, historical data, goals and objectives, be thinking about what are the risks. But usually a marketing assistant and assistant roles in general, and I'm totally guessing, but they tend to lean more behavioral. Tell me about a time when, give me an example of. Let me know if you have more questions. Jeff, you spoke about blocking just now, kind of in a similar situation. Done with 2 rounds with silence from recruiter after a month. Reach out to the HM. He said that you cannot come to G now. Okay, that's weird. Is blocking really a thing? Okay. And then why are HRs not getting back or being transparent at all with the hiring? This is for an India location. Well, I don't know. I don't know why. Here's what okay. Let me give you some historical context, because I think this historical context will be incredibly valuable. When I was a recruiter at Google, when the candidate surveys came out, they'd get a bunch of questions, but they only cared about one question, which was responsiveness. Did this person get back to you in a timely manner? And it was the area that I excelled in the most. No matter how upset people were with the process, they could never argue that data point with me because I was so good at my follow-up. I prioritized it because it was a huge candidate experience item. I have to believe in my mind. I will say that I did get this confirmed. It's been a couple years ago, at least, maybe longer, but they had deprioritized looking at the survey feedback, and clearly that's the state of things. They are not looking at that survey feedback, because if they were, these recruiters would be losing their jobs left and right. It's a huge metric that was a focus area in our performance, was if we were responsive or not. So um, let's go back to this for a second. So basically, um, something happened. Either they hired somebody else, or the role got put on hold or deprioritized, or again, they hired an internal candidate, external candidate. But saying like you can't come to G now, that's just weird, first of all. Um, I don't believe that I don't believe you were blocked. The only time you get blocked is if there was a major red flag in an interview. And by the way, that's like every company. If there was a major red flag, and this is the other one that's pretty much every company, is you get a really bad reference or referral, that can actually, those two items can be blockers. Doesn't sound like that's the scenario. Obviously, I don't have all the data, but not hearing back from your recruiter is just, again, like they should lose their job for that. It's I mean, I'm not saying that recruiting isn't hard. It is. The expectations are high, the hours are significant, the job never shuts down. It's a job that just is always going and going and going. But responsiveness is extremely easy. And anybody who tells you otherwise in a recruiting role, they're unorganized. Period. There are no excuses for not getting back to candidates. It's a lack of organization, a lack of empathy, a lack of care, a lack of awareness. It's all those things. Sorry to hear that. And obviously, it's up to you to decide whether you think it's a good idea to keep trying or not. Hey, Justin. Hope you've been well. I cleared the RRK GCA pending G&L. My recruiter suddenly told me I need to complete a written assignment. Is that unusual? Well, Justin, tell us a little bit more about the role. There are some roles that do require written assignments. Tell us what role you're interviewing for. Hi from Texas. I'm about to start with G in a month. Awesome. And wonder if there's flexibility which days I have to be in the office instead of Tuesday through Thursday. Do you think remote work will ever come back? All right, let's go to the second one and then we'll come back. What do you think about the current antitrust lawsuits at Google? If it results in a company breakup, would that have a massive job security implications? Okay, let's tackle this piece by piece. So usually what I find, and again, we can talk about Google, but this is every company. You kind of got to earn it a little bit, right? So first of all, congrats. It's amazing. You're going to start with Google in a month. So congrats on that. You kind of go with the flow to start. You work that Tuesday through Thursday schedule, and then you build trust over time to say, hey, I actually need to take care of my dog on Thursdays, or take my child to daycare, or pick them up from school, or whatever. Once you've earned the trust, like building in more flexibility is very reasonable. So I think that that's an okay ask, but just kind of not too early on. Like you're going to have to go into the office for a little bit and just get a feel for it. And I know it's not ideal for some people, but that's how I want you to start. Do I think remote work will ever come back? It's an interesting question. It's like these companies have invested so much money in real estate that I don't know. Like they want to get their money out of their investment, but could they sell off these commercial buildings? Maybe, but I think if the market got flooded like it did during COVID with all these commercial buildings, like I don't know about the future of remote work. I think the future of work is very, very hard to predict. I think the world, if we were to go out to 2030, the world is going to look so different that I just worry about the future of work overall. Not, let's go to your second point. So I don't worry about the antitrust lawsuits against Google because they just have a good legal team, and this happens all the time, and they'll pay fines, and the fines will be significant, and then they'll just keep doing business as is. I don't think that they're going to get totally broken up. Of course, I can't say for sure. Um, I think that there's massive job insecurity everywhere. I just think that, well, we all know these companies are going to do what's best for them. What's best for them is to make sure that the bottom line is keeps going up. So with more automation, AI coming in, we're going to see more and more jobs get automated out. So job insecurity, again, this is not to take the negative lens. It's just what I believe. I think job insecurity is just it's our new reality. We live in a world of job insecurity because our jobs can be automated in a moment's notice. And these companies are just showing that they don't care. And that's okay. Like, we just need to take ownership of ourselves and take care of ourselves first, because having loyalty to a company in 2025, it's just a recipe for disaster. Well, multiple referrals work in my case. And just for reference, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, this is, we're in the team match phase and seeing what's going on here. So just coming back. Sometimes, I mean, if you have multiple people saying great things about you, I mean, as a hiring manager, that's going to influence my decision. I want to hear from people who have worked with you. Like, interviews, they don't tell me a lot. You can be really great at interviews, but not necessarily great at the job. And so referrals are a great way for me to double check and basically see, okay, this person is really good. So I do think referrals help in the team match phase. It's something as a hiring manager I would absolutely look at. So yeah, I do think it helps. It definitely doesn't hurt. And so the more you have, the more data I have. And I'm a data person. Like, give me as much data and information as I can, and I can make more and better informed decisions for who I hire. Hey, Jeff, your content has been so helpful. Awesome. Thank you so much. I made it to the final round for a non-tech program manager role at Google, and I have a question about scale. Okay. My career has mostly been in public ed, nonprofits with tiny budgets. I'm mostly nervous that my stories won't feel applicable to interviews because Google is so much bigger. Any advice? Yeah, Richard, the number one thing is, like, don't worry about it. We only can control what we can control. And you can't control where you've worked in the past. And I think it's like, I hope and I think that most interviewers understand that Google's going to work at a pretty large scope and scale. But if you say, in this initiative saved the organization $5,000, well, yeah, maybe you work on an initiative at Google that saves the company $1 million, but that $5,000 could be really impactful to a nonprofit. And so sometimes backing it up with numbers and a percentage, or the percent is backed up. So it's like, we saved 3% on this, which was $10,000, which was a huge win for our small nonprofit. So just kind of filtering in that context a little bit. But scope and scale, I mean, again, I wouldn't worry too much about it. That's a control item, and we just can't control our past. So I try not to control things I can't control. And so hopefully in your case, that makes sense. Let me know if you have more questions. In light of all the kinds of jobs AI is taking, is using writer on my resume going to signal that my main skill set is no longer useful? This applies to any job AI is taking. It's an interesting question. I mean, writing jobs are going away, whether that's blog writers or content writers or technical writers. Like, LLMs do a really good job of writing. So it's tricky to be in one of those positions right now. And I mean, candidly, I used to have somebody who helped me with my blog posts a little bit. And once GPT came out, I just had to focus on writing them myself with AI. So, Yeah, it's an interesting position to be in. But of course, if you're going after writer roles, we don't want to change that title. There are still going to be writer roles out there. And I do think that the way that we use language is important. I think that AI is still a tool with writing. I don't think that it's achieved the level of writing capability where I would ever use anything verbatim. It feels a little automated like AI. So I wouldn't want you to change your background just based on that. But I do think that writing roles, yeah, I mean, we just need to be honest, right? These are going to be more challenging roles moving forward, just because the LLMs are very, very good at writing in general. And so I want to talk a little bit about LLMs, large language models. Whenever we talk about large language models, it's just like some people don't understand that abbreviation. And obviously, all the large language models are things like GPT, Claude, Llama, etc. Um, got a little poke on LinkedIn about that yesterday, and so I just thought I'd clarify that. Sure, it's a YouTube ops role to support social escalations on Twitter. I can see the assignment is relevant, but just surprised that it wasn't mentioned up front. All right, Justin, we're going to go back. So, okay, so this is a written assignment for this role. You've cleared the RRK and GCA, and the G&L is pending. Okay. And so to support social escalations on Twitter, I can see why the assignment is relevant, but just surprised that it wasn't mentioned up front. I wish it was mentioned up front for you. If it's a part of the process, again, this is a control item. And again, Justin, this isn't a poke at you. This is just a general commentary. Like, let's ask, tell me the steps of the process. What are all the steps I'm going to need to complete? And if they're like, oh, you'll go through some interviews, can you be more specific? How many interviews? Are there going to be written assignments? Are there going to be case studies? Are there going to be informal interviews or potential team interviews afterwards? Like, they should be giving that information up front, but because there's like an unwillingness to provide these answers, it just seems like we need to take more control. And so much of life is about the things we can control and can't control, but one of the things we can control is asking our recruiters good questions. I hope that helps. Thanks. And just remember, like, let's actually pause on this for a second. No take-home assignment or written assignment should actually solve a specific business challenge for that role. Let's pause on that item. If you are going after, like, let's say it's a product manager role, and they're like, hey, come up with a new idea for our business that we could roll out in the next 3 months. Absolutely not. That's asking you to do work that they might actually use to build a new product. That's free labor, and that's not right. So with written assignments, I know that the job market's so tough that you might say, look, I'm not going to back away from a job because they give me an assignment where I'm doing actual work for them. But there's a real legality issue here. If the assignment isn't vague or disconnected from the job, and it's solving a real problem that job probably needs to solve for, it's just free work. That could be a fake job listing. They might be just trying to get some good ideas, and then it's gone. That's very common in the product manager space. Throw out a product manager job description, have you ideate for them, and then they steal your idea and they never hire for the role. It's just an important item to recognize that actually does happen. Hey, Jeff, remember I told you that I'm the only candidate for HC? Okay. Well, I signed the contract. I'm going to be a Googler soon. Amazing. Congrats. That's awesome news. Yeah. And honestly, like, when you're going after a role, there is some serious fake news that recruiters will throw out at you. But when you go to hiring committee, specifically for a specific role with a specific hiring manager, you're the person going to hiring committee. Nobody else is going. They don't put multiple people in hiring committee for one specific role. Generic roles, generic software engineer, program manager, or product manager, sure. But when it's a more specific role, or you've team matched and then you've gotten that specific hiring manager, you're going to be the only one. Congrats and good luck. Okay. This is a sleepy live today. That's okay. We can keep the juices flowing here. So I'm going to pull this up really quickly. Let's talk a little bit about return to office. And then as more questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. And really remember, everything's on the table. So if you use the code NORTO, you get 25% off of our interview mastery course today. In October, I updated all the modules to include AI to really speed up the prep. And it's an overwhelming course. There's a lot of content in there, but if you play all out, it will definitely help you have success. So return to office. The reason why I love this title, and I ran through a lot of titles with GPT to just find out like what was a good title. It's like this idea and concept that one scenario works well for everybody. It's a real lack of awareness, right? And so we've seen a lot of these CEOs come in and be even aggressive in their tone to say, like, we need to return to office because that's better for everybody. It's like, well, it is better for some people. Some people need to be in a work environment to collaborate better, to actually be held accountable. And then there's the other half that doesn't need that. And so, this one size fits all, I think that would be the question I would ask any of these CEOs who are mandating this would to ask that question. Does one size fit all? Because I don't think anybody's asking that question. And remote was working and has been working. So it's something we can discuss, but I'm not a huge fan of the mandate. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't understand why there's no logic or awareness when it comes to, hey, this works for everybody. This is best for everybody. It's more like, this is best for me. I think that this is what's best. And so I'm going to mandate this. And that's just, I find that to be extremely challenging. So again, something we'll want to chat through. Yes, congrats. All right. Sorry, Daphne. I just don't get the. Okay. I'll have you come back and finish that thought. What would you suggest account manager Nooglers to impress their team members and hiring managers? I will work on a sales team for emerging markets. Yeah, and so I think it's probably time for me to do this video for onboarding. And we had somebody, Patrick, coming in, and he was onboarding at ServiceNow, and so he had a lot of onboarding questions. And onboarding questions are very common. I had really tried to stay away from like things that happen once you're at the job, but at this point, I'm running out of stuff to talk about in my videos, so I'm happy to talk about it. But with onboarding, the number one item I want you to focus in on is just active listening. Like, come in and be the best active listener that, sorry, I'm gonna hit my mic. Be the best active listener that team has, that the whole company has. So what does that mean? It just means defaulting to listening, having good eye contact. If you're face to face, giving good body language, saying, oh, I get it, I understand, and just letting them talk. Being the last person to talk when you're going through the onboarding process shows that you're really engaged and you're a great listener. People love great active listeners. And by the way, it's really not that hard. You just need to not say anything. So we just stop talking, we acknowledge, we build good eye contact with them, and then let all those other things happen. And lots of great things will happen if you're an active listener. Second is really stretch the collaboration. So not just within your team, but as you interact or work on any projects or initiatives with other teams, just make sure that you're really going out of your way to collaborate, and even doing in-person lunches, virtual lunches, in-person coffees, virtual coffees, anything you can do to get to know your team members and the broader team. It's going to be really helpful. In an AM role, you want to lean on your other team members. They're going to have so many important use cases, so much important data and context that's going to help you be successful. So lean into collaboration. And then the third one, which I don't know if people like or not, they probably don't like it. I just think when you onboard, you should just outwork everybody. You should just be the hardest worker, period. And that's for like 3 to 6 months. Just grind it out. And it's like, oh, you put forth all this time and effort to get the job. Now is the time to double down. So you're making a great first impression as a great active listener, a great collaborator, and a really hard worker. And the last one, like the bonus tip, is you become indispensable if you take something off of your manager's plate or lead's plate that they hate doing. So early on in the process, I would say, like, I want to see how I can help you. Is there any task or item that I could take off your plate that would be really great and help you? Take off a 5% task that a lead or manager hates doing, and maybe it's terrible, but then when it comes to layoffs or anything, they're not going to get rid of you because you took that one terrible task away from them. That last tip, it depends, but it's one that I like. Not 100% sleepy, busy, okay, grateful. Moving back to prep now. As always, appreciate the Tuesday live sessions. Thanks, Liz. Thanks for being here. Thanks for keeping us moving as always. Oh, Jeff, I just don't get the 100% reversal. Work from home was such a great thing 2 or 3 years ago. Performance was skyrocketing, and now it's perceived by employers as the worst thing. I feel like I'm going to go on a tangent here, but with a small audience and a probably what will be a short session today, let's talk about it. The default item that I believe is a critical item for success in life is awareness, because it's kind of like awareness is the top of funnel item and everything streamlines from there. And so there just was no awareness and all this push for RTO. It's like we think that it's the best this way, and like they don't survey employees, they didn't actually look at performance metrics over time, specifically individual performance metrics. Like we could have made it about performance and pushed the people who are performing worse back into the office, but the people who are performing great, look, it was a perk or incentive. You perform great working remotely, you should get to keep working remotely. So there was no awareness. And then the challenge with no awareness is if you're not aware, you can't be empathetic. And so without empathy, there's no understanding that people set their lives up for this remote environment. And now without this remote environment, like it really does have a negative impact on people, and people's performance might dip quite a bit. Bad commutes, less flexibility. They got to put their dog in doggy daycare. They got to put their kids in daycare. They got to have a 2-hour commute each way. Like or they need to move because they got the job remote. And now all of a sudden they have to be back in the office for a location where they didn't even live. And they have a 3% mortgage on their house here in the US. And now mortgages are 7%. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. And so that lack of awareness funnels down this stream and this path. And that's why people are so mad. And by the way, the person mandating it is rich. And not just a little rich, it's very rich. They make tens of millions of dollars a year as a CEO. They can, who was it? I think, was it the Salesforce CEO or somebody was taking a helicopter like into the office every day. And it's like, that's a lack of awareness. If you can take a helicopter in or fly on your private jet into the office every day, it's a different experience than that person who has to move or do that long commute. Again, it's an awareness item. And I think that so much of communicating and how we communicate messages, it needs to be really reviewed and thought through, and you need to bring in people who are experts in the communication space. And that's why like Meta's last layoff note was so terrible. It was so cold. And it was like nobody thought about the messaging there and didn't bring in a communications coach to talk through it. So it's just really tricky. But Daphne, I agree with you. I think it's kind of messed up. You are welcome. I wish you the best of luck. Hey, Jeff, appreciate your content. A bit tangential, but would you be willing to provide your perspective on how to best uplevel L7 to L8 throughout the hiring process? Fully recognize that there are many variables, but assume I'm overqualified for an L7. There's very, very, very few times that an L7 will be upleveled to an L8 because they're really different processes. Meaning, like an L8 is considered director level leadership. L7 is a senior manager. There's a huge differential between that level. That's considered a huge leap. Even probably a 7 to an 8 is probably bigger than an 8 to a 9. 8 to a 9 is director to senior director, right? So like you obviously just want to have the conversation about it. Like, I really believe I should be coming in at the director level. What can we do to set up the interview panel to make sure I'm being explored at the director level? You know, historically, they don't want anybody a level below. So if you're going after an L8, you would only be able to really interview with directors and above. And they probably didn't set the panel up that way, which is going to automatically default you to an L7. Now, historically, I would have said, don't worry about it. An L7 is going to probably pay better than most director roles at most companies. But, you know, Google over the last 6 weeks really decided to lower their equity packages quite a bit. And they're making it much tougher. And L7s are definitely just not going to be compensated as much. L7s might be getting less compensation than L6 were getting just a couple months ago. And I actually have a use case of that, a very recent use case of that. So it's hard. You just want to have the conversation. If we don't have the conversation, we're not bringing the awareness around it. But will they up level to an 8? That's going to be very challenging. Work from home, agree, commuting sucks. However, I can see the use case for RTO-AI. When building agents that can access data, we need to isolate projects in a safe environment servers, if you see what I mean. Yeah, I mean, like, we can use VPNs and stuff, but I mean, like, is it going to be maybe more secure in an office building? Like, maybe, sure. I'm not that technical, but I mean, obviously we know that safe environments and servers, especially ones that are, you know, have the right location, et cetera. Now I'm going to just misspeak, but yeah, there is some safety and security with working remote as opposed to being in the office. But there are also remote technologies like using VPNs that can allow us to protect our data anyway. And companies should be providing that and working through that accordingly. But yeah, I mean, there can be an argument for RTO. I think I did really well in person. You know, I was definitely one of those people who would thrive more in the office than working remotely. So like for me, I fall in that percentage, but I also have the awareness that for other people, it doesn't work as well. I also was probably overly extroverted to the point where I was chatting and not being as productive. And that's why I'd get into my office and get a lot of work done early and late, because during the day I was, you know, extroverted and probably chatting too much. So it's always a delicate dance. Hey, Jeff, just wanted to say thank you. Had not found the way to do it. I just started my 5th week at Google, and your content was crucial in all the interview process. Santiago, amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, just, you know, you go through this YouTube journey, and it's been 6.5 years. Now it's over 6.5 years of putting out content, and I'm glad that people find it helpful. You know, I think what I've learned over time is that the biggest item I've learned throughout this journey is that really interviewing in general is all about 3 things. It's about data science and cognitive psychology. And so all my coaching, while it seems very Google specific, it's actually all based on the brain. If we can always get fixated and focused in on how the brain works, then we're going to do well in everything, in our communication, in our interviews, all those items. And so all my coaching just goes back to how do we tap into how the brain works and use those tips and tricks for our success. So congrats. If the position required 2+ years of program management experience, but I have 10+, wouldn't I be a strong candidate? I thought I was perfect, but application not accepted. Yeah, unfortunately, this is one of those scenarios, Daphne, where they see you as overqualified. Now, again, the years of experience is always a recommendation and suggestion to go up or down a little bit, but it may just be too big of a stretch up. They don't want to hire somebody overqualified, and we could argue all day about that, but that's just one of the reasons why they want your years of experience to align with the requirements of the role. Yeah, it's tough feedback because some people would say, well, I'm willing to come in, learn, grow, but they just don't see it that way. And really, like, I don't think very many companies will, unfortunately. Hi. Had both leadership and GCA round today. Well, I did answer the questions. I felt like I was not as structured in my response and could have been more comprehensive, but your videos helped me a lot. Thank you so much for the positive feedback. And just remember, interviews are really tough. So if you go in and you bring structure into your interviews, you are already way ahead of your competition. A lot of people are winging it. And of course, in the behavioral side, a lot of people are using the STAR method, but for common questions, they're not using a method. Obviously, for hypothetical questions, they're not using a method. And that method is your structure. It's your foundation, right? And then understanding how to organize the information within that structure and then what's your level of detail. It probably went better than you think, but people get worried about the rigidity of using methods. Like, it's going to keep them in some sort of perceived box. And the reality is that without structure, we will get disorganized very quickly and our answers will start to go here. This is always the motion I do because I've sat, when you talk about just like those intro recruiting interviews, which I would do tons of those every week during all my years of recruiting, all the client work, all the like actual interviews I did on the job, we're at 10,000 plus interviews. And the vast majority of people just do this. And it's really hard to follow along with that. I know it's a ridiculous visual, but it's just the reality. It's hard to follow along with information coming from all directions. Structure is the thing that keeps us aligned and allows our interviewer to follow along. What's happening in these job interviews? Interviewers are not incentivized to be there. You do not incentivize me as an organization to show up, pay attention, and care. If they did, people would. It's a very smart practice to incentivize good interview performance, really push for interview feedback from candidates, and make candidate experience your number one priority. Why? Well, if candidates have a good experience, you'll hire the best people, and people are the ones who ultimately make the business successful. No companies are using that logic currently in 2025. So it's really, really unfortunate. Yeah. So I think you probably did better than you think you did, but come back. Let us know how it goes, please. Okay. We are out of questions. Here's what I want to do. Oh, here we go. Daphne, you're back in. Thanks, Jeff. Makes sense. So 2+ years required, the max would be like 4 to 5 years of experience. Probably. If they're looking at 2 years of experience, they might look at it and say, okay, 4 years of experience in program management, that's good. But at 10 years, it's going to feel like you're overqualified. I know that nobody likes that overqualified term. It's terrible. I know it's the worst, but they will want alignment because if it doesn't show up in the beginning, hiring committee will be all over that later on. Yeah. You're overwhelming yourself and feeling nervous. This is your first one here in the USA. So remember, the biggest thing that is going to protect us and save us from anxiety, nervousness is our breath. We forget to breathe. And there is so much information on the power of our breath. So just one deep breath. And again, we can do that and not look like we're doing it in an interview. You see my voice has already gone down like a half octave. It's much calmer, and that's one breath. So remembering to breathe deep. And then again, like one way to overcome this anxiety and nervousness is to just prep like a crazy person. It will never remove all the anxiousness or stress, and a little bit of anxiousness and stress is good because it keeps us sharp, keeps us on our toes, makes us alert. So those are good items. So a little bit of stress and anxiety is actually good. No stress and no anxiety, you're probably not going to get it. But prepare and practice like a crazy person, right? That's one. And then just breathe. And then lastly, I like to tell this to anybody before a job interview, don't prep right up until the interview. That will create more stress. Your brain has limited capacity. Shut down a half an hour before all interviews, meditation music, just kind of chill out. And then 10 minutes before, make sure you have your water, make sure you have a pen, notes, you have your camera set up, you have everything ready to go. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go into wrap up mode. And then if any comments or additional questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. If you use the coupon code NORTO, you'll get 25% off our course today. In October, I updated that to have all AI modules in there. So really up to date, really great, very robust. So if you want to check it out, you get a discount today. Our AI tool, I can't believe I didn't mention it because it's my biggest product, but the AI tool, we launched Interview Academy this week. So what is Interview Academy? It's going to be something that keeps you engaged with the tool. We want to make it more sticky. We want to keep you on the tool. So it's not going to have the robustness of our interview mastery course, but it's going to help you as you work through your answers on the tool. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, join our waitlist. We're slowly allowing people in. You do have to be a paid user to get the Interview Academy, but we know it's going to be a game changer, especially at the price point of our app, which we are reducing the price point. That's coming soon. We are going to do a more tiered approach with the app. So we're very, very excited. We're approaching 5,000 signups on the app, which we think is pretty good from a B2C perspective. So things are churning, still looking to get more users, and we'll always take feedback there. I'm still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. That's mostly resume and LinkedIn work, but can be overall strategy. Obviously, we got the course. I have a ton of free resources on the website. Scroll to the bottom of practiceinterviews.com. You'll be able to find our free resources, free downloads, our Slack community, blog posts, and of course, I go live at 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday, and I will do my best to keep producing shorts. I hope everybody has a great day, and I will be back next week. Thank you so much.